Old friends are stopping by now, and I haven't seen you in forever now.
And you are a great TV guy, folks.
Oh,
he is
thank you.
very good on the TV.
This is how it works. We can't touch each other now.
No, we can't. I can't give you a high five.
No, there's no high five.
The little boxing thing?
No. We stay here in our respective places. We haven't seen each other in a long time, like a lot of people out there.
Text a little bit, but we haven't seen each other.
Right, saying I hope you're safe and all this. You've been working throughout. What do you think baseball is going to look like now? You're a student of the game. What do you think this is going to look like with no fans, everything else?
Well, I mean, it's going to take some getting used to. When we watch that first one tomorrow night, I mean, I know we've seen a little spring training, the summer thing, we saw summer. It's going to take a little getting used to, all those empty seats. But I think once we get past that 4 or 5 days a week, I think the games will take place, and I think you'll get wrapped up in a quick season, the 60 games, the sprint aspect, instead of the marathon aspect, everybody theoretically having a chance, the 1 6-game losing streak putting you in a bad way. Mm-hmm. So I think that will overcome some of the other things you're going to have to deal with. And the empty seats, Brian, that's a big deal with these empty seats. Yep. So because you want the energy of the ballpark. You and I want energy when we do shows. Doing it from home, you don't have that same energy. Right. You want the same thing if you're an athlete. So I think that will be a factor. But I think once we get into the ebb and flow of it, the day in, day out, we get to a week, I think you'll get wrapped up in the season.
Right. I just realized you're a man that needs no introduction. I didn't even introduce you.
You didn't even do that?
Christopher Mad Dog Russo is here. I didn't even say who you were. It's like, literally no introduction.
They know you and me.
All right, so you've been on the air, though, doing your radio show every day.
Right.
Your thoughts on baseball in the entire, sports spectrum, because not much has come back. Some UFC. I haven't done any boxing yet. There's been a little bit of boxing, but not that much.
Nobody's watching the German soccer leagues, or the Premier League. This is a big opportunity for baseball. This first week, they've had very good ratings in these spring training scenarios. The Yankee-Met game the other night had a great rating. The White Sox-Cubs had the highest rating for ESPN since the Jordan documentary. That game they aired the other day. So I think people are looking forward to it. Now, again, they have they got a window here for a couple of weeks. They should get off to a pretty good start. It will be interesting if, the thing I don't like about it is there's no parachute for a good team that gets off to a bad start. And that's where I would have liked to have seen more playoff teams this year. And I'm usually a less playoff guy, but this year more playoff teams would have helped. Yeah. Because let's say the Yankees, for whatever the reason, struggle out of the gate and they're 10-10. And let's say for whatever the reason they don't make the playoffs. Does anybody think the Yankees aren't the top 5 teams in the American League? And for whatever the reason they go 33-27 and miss out? Well, if you had the extra couple playoff teams, that gives them a little protection. So I would have liked to have seen that. Because you want the good teams involved in October.
I agree with you. I thought this was an opportunity. And look, it just didn't work between labor and management, right? They
couldn't agree to that.
To have a whole big tournament, it would have been fun. And even purists like us would be like, look, whatever you do this year is good.
100%.
Just do it. But you know what? The fact that everybody knows, and I heard your show today saying, hey, look, what if the Dodgers won? Would it be viewed the same way? Everybody knows the score right now. So I feel differently. I feel like, hey, 60 games is actually a decent, it's not a Robert Wool actually emailed me and said, from Arliss and said, hey, this is not a sprint. It's like a 10K. It's not, it's not the marathon that it was, but it's a 10K.
Still a lot of games.
And it's going to be 60 games. So the Yankees, Dodgers, everybody knows what it is. I think whatever happens this year, it's a legit title if they can play 60 in playoffs.
That would be interesting. Can I wait and see who's in the mix at the end before I make that
conclusion? You want to
see
proper teams represented.
See, that's what helped 81. You and I remember. That's what helped 81, the split year, is that the Yankees and Dodgers got to the World Series.
Felt like that's the way it was supposed to be.
It wasn't Oakland and Montreal.
Yeah.
It was, and those two teams made the playoffs. It was the Yankees and the Dodgers. Right. This year, if you get Yankees and Dodgers, I actually think it adds more credibility. Hey, you know what? They would have won anyway, so what difference does it make? 60 games. Now, if you get, I'm not trying to knock anybody, but it's fact. If you get, Diamondbacks and pick a team, out of the White Sox, people might say, you know what? Geez, they took advantage at 60 games. We all know they weren't necessarily the best team, but the schedule played into it because obviously the better team over 162 is going to surface more so over 60. Right. So from that standpoint, a Yankee-Dodger year this year, I think is actually, or two good teams, not to be Yankees-Dodgers. I think it's actually more important for the team that you thought was going to be really good in March to be in the World Series or in the big-time postseason spots in late October.
Where are you on the new rules, the DH, the guy on second base in extra innings?
I have no problem with the guy on second base in the extra innings. We do not need 4-hour ball games in this year. So you want to store the guy on second base.
Do you like it next year?
Probably, can I see the games first, Brian, before you start pinning me on next
I already have opinions formed.
Maybe not in the 10th inning. I wouldn't mind in the 12th inning.
I agree. Right, 12th is like, all right, you've played a bit, although I say let him play. I say make really work on making the regular 9-inning game tighter, like shorter, tighter, make it 2.5 if you could, she's like old days, 2 hours. And then if you play 18 innings, well, then
that's fine, but that's not going to happen. So let's split the baby.
It could happen, but it's not happening.
So put maybe next year in the 12th inning, the universal DH, that's what you love.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't love that?
No, I hate that. I like National League.
Yeah, I don't like it
Major
either.
League rules.
I don't like it either. I understand it for this year.
I do. Yeah, this year, yes.
I don't think it necessarily be there next year. I don't think that next.
It's like this inexorable push.
I agree,
Everyone
but remember, there's a labor fight coming down the road in 2000. Not a fight,
but aren't they going to want more DHs? Won't the players?
Yeah, I know, but if they take that back, then they have to negotiate the DH back in, and the owners get something out of that. If you say, okay,
I just see everybody.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
Everybody seems to be going after.
Oh, I think there's going to be a DH eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe not next year. Anyway, I also have no problem with the 3-batter minimum. I am surprised there's been such an outcry about this 3-batter minimum. I am tired. I know you love it. I am tired of the parade.
I hate the new rule.
No,
I like being able to do anything you want.
You love all the bullpen
I love
guys.
the bullpen moves.
I don't like that. I am tired of seeing the path to the dugout, to the mound in the 8th inning go on and on and on. So I have no problem.
You know why I'm not crazy, I'm not apoplectic about this, is that you can use a guy to end an inning. If it comes in, so you can put a guy in with 2 outs, he gets 1 out, and then you want to take him out.
That's a good point.
So it's the end of an inning.
That should help
and
a little bit.
Right, so
good point.
It's not such a huge thing. I want to ask you this, though, and I haven't had a chance to get this out. We're both big on the Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the ceremony this year, which likely would have been the biggest ever.
Oh, Jeter.
Derek Jeter has been pushed back to next year. Now, that makes perfect sense. Everybody's good with it. Hey, it ain't happening this year. Let's move it to next year and have a big crowd. Hopefully that can still happen. Do you think it'll affect the voting of the baseball writers, given that anybody voting
who's on the borderline say we got a weekend anyway, why put more guys in?
We have a whole class going. Ted Simmons,
I think it's going.
Larry Walker's going in.
Excellent point. You're right. I hadn't thought of that. I think the baseball writer will say, you know what? I'm not going to put the borderline guy in because we got borderline guys maybe in anyway.
And
I'll lay low this year.
And actually, this year it's all borderline guys. Like you like Jeff Kent, I like Billy Wagner. But you'd say, well, do I need to vote for this guy? But it's mostly Bonds, Clemens, Curt Schilling, polarizing guys who probably a lot of writers are thinking, do I want to give this guy a vote anyway? And do I want him on stage up there in Derek Jeter's year?
That's an excellent point. I do think that will affect Schilling specifically. I don't think Bonds and Clemens are getting in. Schilling, I think, would have gotten in. You follow the trends more than I do. It sounds like Schilling was going to get in. He might have to wait another year. I hadn't thought of that. That's the first I've thought of it. You're right, 100%.
Most of these writers are saying, it really won't affect me. But, somewhere inside, you're thinking, we have a whole class going.
We got Jeter, and it's Jeter.
Right. And if you were getting a really a super candidate in, well, then you'd vote him in. Like, you wouldn't have Pedro Martinez. I don't have to vote for Pedro.
You're not going to wait a year for a great player.
Right. Those aren't the guys who are going to be hitting the ballot.
Everybody's picking the Dodgers. You think they're going to win the NL pennant?
Yeah.
The Yankees?
Yeah. Okay. Super teams, the teams will still rise. 60 games is enough for the teams to rise. And then playoffs,
You like the trendy teams in the White Sox and Reds?
I think wild card's going to get crazy. Wild card will come down to like if you're 33 wins or you're 30 wins.
White Sox in or out?
No, probably not.
Reds in or out?
No.
Okay.
Look at that. We got to go. You still want to do a show? He's used to doing a couple hours, by the way.
I just did an hour.
I know you.
You're my man, baby.
You're literally rolling out of bed, doing an hour, no sweat. All right, Doggy, we'll
get back in touch. Okay.
Good seeing you then.
You got it.
Right.
You know I love you.
Christopher Mad Dog Russo, everybody.